This is DiffTheEnder bringing you the latest analysis, and today I'm going to be looking at the Bloodthirster versus the Last Whisper as a third item build on an AD carry. Now why is this so important? It's because a lot of people don't know what to build, and today I'm going to do the math and show you which one's better to build. I hope you enjoy it because I'm interested. I hope you're interested. Now let's get straight into this as soon as this intro finishes. So, with an AD carry, what is the standard build? Well, with an AD carry, you're usually going to start with boots or Dorans, depending on the support, depending on the lane. So if you've got boots, Dorans, and then you're going to go upgrade your boots, you're going to build Vamp Scepter maybe for the lane sustain, then you're going to go rush your Infinity Edge, and then a Phantom Dancer. This is the standard build for most AD carries. When I say most, I mean champs like Graves, Sivir, Ashe, Vayne, champs like that. Champs that are not, unique ones like Urgot maybe. So most standard AD carries would be following this build. You would have built this, you know what I'm talking about. Now, the curious thing is, what do you build after these two? You've got the Infinity Edge and the Phantom Dancer, and you've got. What do you want to build next? I mean, some people will say, no, I want to build a defensive item next, and then something that I found common is the higher level players will always say, I'm going to build a Last Whisper next, or a QSS, something like that. Whereas the lower level players would say, I'm going to build a Bloodthirster, or even just more damage, etc. Now, I had a friend who once told me, the difference, there's a free, oh my god, Windows again. So, there's a difference if 100 elo, it's a free 100 elo if you build a Last Whisper instead of Bloodthirster. I mean, and I told my friend, what? How does that work? And he's just like, it's just a huge difference. Just do the math, look at the damage. I'm like, okay, Mr. Friend, I'll go do the math. So, we need to do the math to find out which is in fact better for damage. Firstly, we need a couple of assumptions. So, the champion will be level 18 because that's around what level they will build it at. Now let's take a look at this. IEM Kiev Low Grand Final. We see Chaos on Graves here. Let's actually put it in full screen. He's level 15 currently, and he's got an Infinity Edge, and he will have Phantom Dancer soon, somewhere. He builds a Last Whisper. That's okay. YouTube is refusing to work for me today. Alright, never mind. Screw you, YouTube. Okay, YouTube doesn't work for me today. So, Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper. Now we need to figure out why, or whether it's actually good. So as I said, assumptions. Champion will be around level 18, 16, 17, 18, depending on how fed you are. Chaos in that video only finished at around, what, I think level 17 or 16 it was, so most people are finishing around 16 to 18, depending on how the game's going. The mastery setup, you'll have 21 on offense, no doubt, so that's 6 armor penetration, 80 per level, and 3 flat attack damage and 10% armor penetration, which is the important things. And you'll also have rune setup similar to this. So 15 flat AD is what I'm choosing here. And you'll also have a Dorn's Blade most likely on the side while you're building your third big item. Now, depending on the AD carry in question, the attack damage of the champion at this point may range anywhere from around 200 AD to 225 AD, depending on the champion you're playing. For example, someone like Graves has higher base AD values than someone like Tristana, for example. So, depending on the carry you're playing, you'll end up anywhere from around 200 to 225 AD. Depending on what value I use, the results actually do not change that much. So, I'm just going to use 215 here. I'm not going to change it a lot. 215 assumption, it works for most AD carries. It may not be perfect for your AD carry, but it's very, very close to the actual value, and it's, for all purposes, very accurate. Now, the comparison in question. What exactly do we need to be comparing? Hide the graph here. So the biggest purpose of both items here is to maximize your damage output. So the Last Whisper does this by giving you some decent amount of attack damage, 40 attack damage, and 40% armor penetration. It's like a dagger, it may not be the biggest weapon, it may not be the most powerful weapon, but you can get through the armor and stab him. Now, Bloodthirster is kind of the opposite. It gives you a lot of attack damage and gives you lifesteal. It's kind of like a blunt hammer. You can whack him real hard, but you won't get through the armor. And, it's a hammer that gives you a life back. So, basically, it's decent amount of attack damage, armor penetration, versus a lot of attack damage, and no extra armor penetration. So, which of these outdamages the other? There is one huge factor that decides this, and that is the enemy armor. See, if the enemy has more armor, that means this passive of the Last Whisper is being put to greater use. The 40% armor penetration is working more to your advantage. So the more armor the enemy has, the more likely you should buy Last Whisper. That's what we know before we do the math. Let's go take a look at the actual graph. So, this graph, damage required to equal Last Whisper. Woo, it's a graph. What does it show? Okay, so on the x-axis we have enemy armor. So that's how much armor the enemy has. Self-explanatory right there. And damage required. Now, this is how it works. Okay, so as I said, you have a Infinity Edge and a Phantom Dancer and a Doran's Blade as your damage on top of your runes and masteries. That's giving you what, 215 damage? Alright, so if you have 215 damage and you're comparing whether to buy a Bloodthirster or a Last Whisper, and you need to decide, look at the enemy armor. If the enemy's armor is 50, then you need 75-ish, 72-ish damage to equal a Last Whisper. So either you can buy a Last Whisper, or you can buy a 72 damage, which is around a quarter stacked Bloodthirster. Yeah, quarter stacked Bloodthirster. Now, here's something you'll notice. Okay, let's actually draw on this thing. Let's draw this bad boy here. Okay. 60, 100. Now, what are these two thresholds? These are the thresholds of Bloodthirster values. An empty Bloodthirster gives you 60 AD, and a full Bloodthirster gives you 180. At what points, at what armor is this what you, at what armor is this equal to the Last Whisper's damage output? Okay, basically, if you have an empty Bloodthirster, so you just bought a Bloodthirster fresh out of the shop, you know, you're looking brand spanking new with your beautiful sword with blood on it. Okay, you walk out there with a Bloodthirster, you'll do the same damage as someone with a Last Whisper against someone with 30 armor. Actually, let's make this blue, green. 30 armor. And if you're, you know, you decide to come out of that shop and say, you know what, screw you team, I'm gonna go farm and get my fully stacked Bloodthirster. In that case, you'll do, whoa, it's a curvy line. Okay, you'll do the same damage as someone with the Last Whisper against someone with 107 armor. So, in other words, if the enemy has greater than 107 armor, you will never, ever, ever do more damage to the Bloodthirster than you will do with a Last Whisper. So, just look at these two thresholds. If the enemy's armor is greater than this point, then you will never ever do more damage to Bloodthirster. So, everything here, that's all Bloodthirster territory. Everything here is everything here is Last Whisper territory. So anywhere here is where Last Whisper is number one, numero uno. Okay, and here is where Last Whisper is not as great. So here it's this Bloodthirster territory. Let's make this red. Bloodthirster's red. This is all Bloodthirster territory. Blah 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 blah. Okay. In between is where you have a overlap of the damage output. So if you have a half-stacked Bloodthirster at this point, you'll be doing more damage to Bloodthirster. So everything here is all, you know, Bloodthirster. Whoa. Okay, you know what? Let's just stop drawing here. I think you get the point. Information to be gained. Okay. It can be seen that at any value greater than 107 armor, which is the straight line to 100 AD, the Last Whisper clearly exceeds the Bloodthirster, whether it's stacked or not. Now, here's what we need to consider. How much armor will your enemy likely have? Now, there's a cool page on the Law Wiki here. Let's go to it. Yeah, go internet. New Zealand internet sucks for whoever you're thinking, so if you want good internet, don't come to New Zealand. Okay, list of champions armor. So, value at 18. You can see that the lowest armor, level 18, base armor, is for Heimerdinger, my smart guy with the big head. Okay, he's got 61 armor, and if you scroll down the other of the scale, you've got Poppy and Maokai on 90 armor, which is pretty tanky. So, if they had 60 armor, 61, 60, whatever. If they had 60 armor, you know, this is a Heimerdinger we're talking about, you would require 78 AD to equal the damage from the Last Whisper. So 78. So there we go. Sorry, 60 armor. It'll be here, 78. Okay. So that's how much AD you require to equal the damage from Last Whisper. So 78, that's a half stacked Bloodthirster. You need to stack a Bloodthirster with 20 kills, 20 minion kills, for that damage to equal what you would have got from a Last Whisper. Let's take a look at another example. Since you're not going to be hitting a lowest base armor Heimerdinger with no resistances whatsoever, a more realistic comparison would be, let's say you're trying to hit the enemy AD carry. Yeah, squishy people, right? Wrong. They will have 6 armor from Masteries, 13 armor from Runes. They will have 12 armor from an Aegis on their team. That gives them around 103 armor. That is quite a lot. At 103 armor, enemy armor is 103. How much AD do you need to equal the damage from a Last Whisper? You need 98. Or what did I say here? 98.48 AD, which is pretty much a fully stacked Bloodthirster. If you're hitting the enemy AD carry, you need a fully stacked Bloodthirster to equal the damage from a Last Whisper. That is huge. Like, not only is Bloodthirster more expensive, you also need to fully stack it to equal the damage from Last Whisper. So Last Whisper is clearly supreme here. Now, there are other factors you may bring up. Critical strikes, you say. One of the biggest arguments for building a Bloodthirster is that it gives more critical strike damage. You know, since you have more AD, times 2.5 of a higher AD number gives you more damage. Wrong! You are wrong, ladies and gentlemen. The critical strike means the final damage output is multiplied, not the AD. So, whether you're striking critically or not, the graph for damage required stays the same. So, whether it's critical or not, this graph stays the same. Now, another major component is lifesteal. You know, you're searching for blood. You need blood that gives you life. Yeah, okay. So, this is one area where the Last Whisper is not superior. So, you will always heal more with a Bloodthirster than you will with a Last Whisper and a Vamp Scepter. So, you will heal anywhere from 25% to 140, 20% to 145% more with a Bloodthirster. However, I think this is a pointless argument because, as I said, the cost is that. Let's take a look here. See, look, Bloodthirster costs 3,000 gold. Nice round number. Last Whisper costs 2,290, which is a 710 gold cheaper than the Bloodthirster. So if you really need that extra lifesteal, if you really feel that it's important, you can get a second Vamp Scepter if you want. You can upgrade it to Executioner's Calling if you want. You can get your support to buy Zeke's Herald if you want to get that survivability through lifesteal. So it's not something that I consider huge factor. So I mean, it's not something that I would recommend buying Bloodthirster for. I mean, I'm not saying, oh my god, you get lifesteal, go buy Bloodthirster. No, I wouldn't say that. You already got a Vamp Scepter with a Last Whisper. I would say that's enough. If you need more, there are other options to a Bloodthirster at that point, temporarily that is. Now, one other part of the argument here is that with a Bloodthirster, you get more AD. More AD means you can scale AD ratios more. So, you know, you've got champions like Graves who've got like 3 AD scaling ratios. Here's what I say. For most champions, abilities are not the majority of your damage late game. You're going to launch your abilities once, but your basic attacks is going to hit for more than most of your abilities. Building for your abilities at that point is not something I would recommend. Small exceptions are there, like, you know, Vayne, who, I think if I'm correct, scales off bonus AD. Is that right? Vayne scales off bonus AD on her ultimates. I mean, I would say don't build AD at the end for scaling your abilities. Build AD at the end for maximizing your basic attack damage, because that's the damage that would count. Okay, I was wrong about Vayne. Never mind. So, conclusion. What do I think? As I said before, this one line summarizes the whole concept of Last Whisper versus Bloodthirster as a third item. If the enemy has more than 30 armor, a Last Whisper outdoes the fresh Bloodthirster. More than 30 armor. Champions at level 1 have more than 30 armor. Late game, everyone's going to have around at least 80 or more. That's not even comparable. I would say Last Whisper outdoes Bloodthirster in damage pretty much every single realistic situation. I would say if you want damage, always buy a Last Whisper. I mean, I would say third item, always Last Whisper, unless there's another option such as, Guardian Angel QSS that you really need against a team like, Warwick or Malzahar, for example. This is my opinion. This is my conclusion. Feel free to disagree with me. I am just a human. I do maths. I give you the numbers. I form an opinion based on them. Feel free to form your own opinion. You have the numbers. I will be posting it up tomorrow, and I hope you enjoyed the analysis. I hope you learned something. I hope you can use this in a game. If you liked it, like it. If you want to subscribe, etc. This is DiffTheEnder signing out. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers. Bye-bye.